You're listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Welcome, listeners, to another episode of All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast here on the BQN and the Fandom Podcast Network. I'm your host, Christos, and with me today are Kristin and Kelvin. Hello, guys. How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
I am amazing. I am day 2 into a bathroom remodel, and I love improving my place. So it's very exciting. Plus, I love making changes. So
I've been doing a lot of non-permanent changes. I've been on a rug binge lately, where every room in my home has got a new area rug. So I get it. Sometimes you just need to figure out a way to spruce the place up.
Spruce the place up. Kelvin, how are you?
Jealous, if I may flood myself with negative emotions. It seems like all of my friends on social media are on holiday or celebrating Pride somewhere, and I'm in a gloomy, wet Manchester. So thank you to the two of you for brightening my day, because I'm fuming otherwise.
Oh, well, we are always here to bring you some great joy and gratitude, which we'll get to in a moment here. I have a great joy and gratitude for all three of us before we do our individuals. So Kelvin and I are about halfway through reading the new the Dayton Ward's Star Trek TNG. It's a TNG DS9 novel called Pliable Truths. I mentioned it a few weeks ago, and I am just like savoring every moment. I'm halfway through, and it's like I could just listen to this all day, and I never want it to end. It is TNG DS9. It's like the episode we never know it was like the episode we missed that introduces DS9, and it's a guilty pleasure. What are you thinking so far, Kelvin?
I love it. I'm also exactly halfway through. I think I'm on chapter 2022. Chapter 22. James has just finished it because he reads at lightning speed. But just to kind of time point it, it takes place 2 days before Sisko arrives at DS9. So that opening commander's log at the very beginning of Emissary, he says, my staff, including my chief of operations, arrived from the Enterprise, who've been here the last 2 days. So this is what the Enterprise is up to in those 2 days. It's immediately after Chain of Command, but before the next episode of TNG, which is, it's not Face of the Enemy, is it Quality of Life? Before Birthright. So it's great, and it tells lots of things you didn't think you needed to know and fills in lots of gaps. Well, lovely little cameos of people who you think might pop up as well, and loads that you're thinking, where's that person been? It's great.
Yeah, I just finished this little guilty pleasure part where Beverly beams down to the planet, beams down to Bajor, and she's kind of having flashbacks of I forget what the colony was that she was in with her grandmother. Keldos. No, isn't that where she goes to live? But the one she was at.
With her mum and dad before they passed away.
Yeah, no, the one she's at with, is Keldos the one in Sub Rosa?
Sub Rosa, yeah.
No, there's one before that they were at and it got attacked. And anyways, so they go into the whole Nana's teaching her roots and things like that. And I'm like, oh, this is such a little layer that you didn't know you needed, but you're getting more Nana before
I
Nana's
picked up on that. There's a line where she says, oh, I really must go and visit her. It's like, you better hurry up, love. She'll be dead in a year.
you got about 1 year, girl. Get on it.
Poor Beverly.
So let's go into some more great joy and gratitude.
Great joy and gratitude.
So listeners, if you forget, great joy and gratitude is where we just kind of go around real fast here and talk about one thing about Star Trek that's got us excited this week. So let's start off with Kristin.
Well, first, I have great joy and gratitude in that I need to get that book because apparently it sounds super amazing. I'm in the middle of another book right now, non-Star Trek related, that I'll need to wrap up then. But speaking of non-Star Trek stuff, one of my favorite things is when I'm watching a show that I really love and there's a random mention of Star Trek in it. And that happened to me this week. I am doing a binge watch of What We Do in the Shadows, which is an amazing show about vampires awkwardly living in New Jersey, and it is hilarious. Staten Island. It's very important to delineate that. And in one of the episodes, one of the vampires starts playing with his appearance because he wants to like look younger and hip. And so he gets things done to his face and it starts like pulling his eyebrows up a little bit. And at one point his housemate starts and looks at him. He's like, "What's wrong with your face?" He's like, "Nothing's wrong with my face." He's like, "Have you been watching Star Trek?" And just the way he looks at him was like, Star Trek. I couldn't stop laughing for like 20 minutes at the cadence that he said it and the fact that a random show about vampires mentioned Star Trek. I was just like, my two worlds have collided. I can die now and be happy. So that is my random joy and gratitude with Star Trek this week.
That is a deep cut, but amazing. Kelvin, what's got you excited about Star Trek this week?
Well, certainly I'm going to start with the gratitude element. I'm very grateful to Catherine, who is a colleague of mine, James, at the university. And she went into a charity shop and found a load of Star Trek merchandise from the past and just randomly bought it and gave it to me and James. So I've got,
Oh, wow.
I mean, I don't know if you guys will have this in America, but they brought out TNG on DVD, 2 episodes, and it was kind of like, a weekly thing, and it had a little guide with it, insert. And this is just the collection of every TNG's insert paperwork with it. And it's based on the old Star Trek fact files that were out in the mid-90s. But it's just really beautifully illustrated. And it's just really funky. So very grateful to Catherine for finding it, for buying it for £3.99, worth every penny, and gifting it to us. So thank you.
That is amazing. And, when it's rare, that's also pretty cool.
Yeah.
Mine is actually something I totally forgot about. I had ordered it like 2 or 3 months ago. And it just suddenly I get this, your order has shipped from Amazon on Friday. And I think Friday night when I got home, I had it. I got the vinyl release of the soundtrack for Subspace Rhapsody. So it is quite beautiful to behold. And I have the ability to frame records as art and hang it up with these frames. And I'm like looking forward to doing that at some point because I always loved the special artwork that they did for that soundtrack release. And Kristin is signaling to all her framed records that are hanging on the wall behind her. So she got the memo on how you can decorate and then easily redecorate. Because about, every 4 months I switch them out, just to kind of make the room new again.
Yes.
Nice.
These were also found at a charity shop. Somebody was randomly donated their original movie and Wrath of Khan vinyl soundtracks. And I was like, don't mind if I do. I will just snag these and take these home. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much. So let's jump into our main topic today. Kelvin, you wanted to introduce us?
I shall indeed. So we are going into part 9 of our medical ethics series, focusing on Voyager's season 5 episode, Latent Image, episode 11. So in this episode, we find out that the Doctor discovers evidence that his memory files have been tampered with. It sets in motion a chain of events that lead to the recollection of the death of a crew member, one the Doctor believes he was responsible for. Ooh.
Can we just call this episode The Doctor Has an Existential Crisis? I mean, he just literally is a basket case in this episode.
Yeah, it really fits into the medical ethics series really well because this is almost Star Trek does PTSD. And, there's 2 sides to the story. There's the Doctor and what he's going through. My other side to the story is, what the hell is Janeway doing in this episode? Oh, my God. We'll get to that.
There are 2, I love that you point that out. There are 2 really ethical type issues in this episode. They're completely different, but they're both prominent. And I had a hard time remembering this episode. I know I've seen it because, but maybe it's one I don't think of. I want to rewatch it, but I truly enjoyed it. And there were parts about it yesterday that were like when I was rewatching it, I was like, I felt like I was seeing it for the first time, which is always a little delight, actually. So let's get into our first ethical question discussion. And basically the whole thing that leads to the dilemma is the doctor struggled on how to decide between saving Kim or Jital when they're basically everything was equal in a medical status. This caused a bit of a catch-22 feedback in his system. So how does he choose one? When I'm speaking specifically of, they're on the shuttlecraft. Kim and Jital have both been injured. They bring him back to Voyager, and they have to basically, I think, temporarily sever the spinal cord in order to, be put into like a stasis type thing so they can work on a more permanent solution. And there's only enough time to save one. So everything's equal. And of course, he chooses Kim. And when the doctor thinks about this, he like freaks out. So, Kristin, what do you think about I guess what would you do first and foremost? And what, in a medical, what comes to your mind first?
I think the first thing that came to my mind is this is why I'm not a doctor. Because from my understanding, these are the types of decisions they have to make day in and day out and find a way to live with it. Usually, when you triage, it is sort of that green, yellow, red, black situation, right? They're okay. And then it just continually gets worse. And black is when you triage and they're already dead. But that didn't really apply here because all the situation was equal, Christos, as you mentioned. So I think either way, let's say he'd, not gone with the main cast member and saved Ensign Jital and Harry had died again. This time he can't come back from the other Voyager. He probably would have had the same glitch. And I'm wondering, when the EMH was originally developed, it was supposed to, again, be just for temporary little blips. It was probably never built into his programming to deal with these ethical issues, which, it was not expected that he was ever going to be in this type of a situation. So I really felt for the doctor in this, in that he didn't have any sort of training or preparation to deal with these horrible situations. And then, Janeway essentially gives him an electronic lobotomy to help him forget about it. And then when that starts, she's talking about doing it again. And I'm thinking, my goodness, shouldn't this be a learning moment? But it also very much harkens back to how people dealt with mental health problems way back in the day. Just stick a nail up their nose and we'll figure it out. But, I don't feel as though that the issues that arose from the situation were used to further develop his skills and his programming to move forward. So I think it was definitely a missed opportunity. Why are we just glossing over this?
Exactly. Kelvin, what are your first thoughts on this whole dilemma?
Well, I'll tell you what I would have done. I would have either hid her in the transporter buffer to buy me a bit of time. I would have the 30 seconds that was on screen used to treat Kim. I would have not had a 30-second argument immediately prior to that with Tom Paris. So possibly could have done them both. Obviously, we would have no episode, so I jest. But it got me thinking of conscious and unconscious biases. And I don't know if you guys have done this, but a lot of workplaces that sounds terrible. You go through training like this to help identify, do you have unconscious biases when it comes to recruitment or the way you treat people who you manage? And it was probably an unconscious bias that the doctor selected Harry Kim because he is a senior officer, or dare I say, a bridge officer, with more responsibilities and more to do than poor Ensign Jital. So I guess it wasn't even chance 50-50. They're both the same contribution. I guess there might have been a spark of a subroutine that said Voyager needs Harry Kim more than they do poor Ensign Jital.
Well, I kind of felt like Tom Paris kind of already started walking toward Harry Kim and whatnot, and was kind of making the decision for him. So I kind of didn't quite necessarily understand why it was such a big drama. But, it becomes a little bit more about, they gave the Doctor these personality subroutines, which, up until now didn't become a liability, and they kind of became a liability for him. So, so we save Harry Kim, Jital dies, and basically the Doctor gets into this whole ethical dilemma with himself, and basically becomes this feedback loop of, how was I wrong? He becomes angry. He becomes almost violent to a point, It's a very different Doctor. Obviously, to your point, Kristin, the way B'Elanna and Janeway deal with this is, to go in there and do a lobotomy, delete certain memories and cover up what happened. And I guess you had to also cover up what we don't talk about is everybody else knows what happens, but nobody goes back, that. So now there's just not only have you done a lobotomy, but now like everybody else knows.
There's a cover up.
And his line, yeah.
I think, just focusing on that aspect a little bit and looking at the victim, dare I say, in all of this, Ensign Jital, not only is nobody allowed to mention her in front of the Doctor in case they precipitate this event, but presumably all traces of her ever existing would have been excised from Voyager's databases. It really, dishonors her memory. The fact that she has been erased from history. You may as well have bloody just shot the Krenim weapon at her. Nobody's allowed to speak about her. They even got rid of her body in the Delta Quadrant, didn't stick it in the morgue.
I agree with that. They didn't know how long it was going to take to get home. So I like the actual Captain Spock type burial that gets done. So, but to your point, they show her birthday party, right? That precipitated this. She was well liked and popular. Even Janeway's there partying on her birthday. So it's like, of course, we do this in Star Trek, right? We build somebody up only to kill them. And we introduce somebody new that we don't really know just to kill them. But but we established that she was well liked and popular. And even the whole main crew showed up for her birthday party. And now we don't even speak her name.
Yeah. I think I must have been affected because I always forget that this is a birthday episode. And sometimes if I'm bored, I just watch all of the episodes that take place on people's birthdays, just as a little connect the dots. And I always forget this one because obviously she's not a main character. But I apologize to Oni Jital for not honoring her birthday.
Is that a new series idea? The B-Day series? And just go through.
There's about 10.
I was like, I've never thought of that. And Kelvin, you never cease to amaze me with the type of things that drive you. But birthday series, okay. And well, if you got 10, we got a series. So, pitch it up, man. Anything that brings variety to the...
Yeah. Can we talk about, as well, this whole concept of, wiping memories for the greater good? Because, there's two things to discuss. There's obviously it's very easy to flick a switch with an artificial life form and delete the memories or that you don't need. But what would they have done with a person? Well, we've seen, Sarjenka in Pen Pals had the memory of Data removed. Kern on DS9, heartbreaking, had his entire life removed so he wouldn't commit suicide. And then even in Clues in The Next Generation, where they do 24 hours, 1,014 people. Did they all consent to this?
What was that?
There's children on board. So they've just taken memories from everybody.
Kern is very problematic.
But my point is, none of these people consented or that we saw explicitly. This is something that somebody else decided. So Picard decided to get rid of Szilagyi memories. Worf decided to get rid of Kern's memories. Obviously, the senior staff were fine on clues. Is it ethical to do this if you're not the person who says, this is a painful memory, is there a way I can forget it through hypnosis or whatever? What do we think?
Well, first off, I blame Dr. Pulowski.
Of course you do.
It's all her fault.
You know what? It kind of is, though.
I'm immediately reminded of Beverly. I am aware of Dr. Pulaski's technique.
Oh, that line is delivered with such shade. I love it. I love it. I love it. Throwback to Who Watches the Watchers, which is another memory wiping episode that Beverly does correctly.
That kind of doesn't go through very well, like this one.
Yeah, apparently their chemistry was different, and the technique did not work as planned.
Yeah, yeah. But you know, I think we're in a societal shift ourselves when it comes to the ideas of consent, right? And how it has become so much more of an obvious topic about true and you know, being aware and being very having a lot of intention behind your consent and not just implied or whatnot. So and in this case, he didn't give either. He didn't really give an implied or an explicit consent. He was just sort of, I don't know. It again, it's one of the situations where did it do more harm than good? And in this case, I actually think it did more harm than good. Because again, it did not give him the opportunity to learn and grow. Was he suffering? Absolutely. Was there a way to get past it? Absolutely. That did not include just erasing this young woman from existence. So, you know, all of these other situations are, you know, very different. In the case of clues, I don't know if they had much of a choice. Otherwise, they would have all been dead.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe. I don't know.
Well, so this gets to like how did we do it the first time and how are we going to do it the second time, right? Because obviously it didn't work. There were clues. You know, the scars to Harry Kim was what, you know, when he was doing his holographic 3D imaging, which was probably amazing special effects for 1990, whatever. But, you know, now we're like, well, they were doing that on Discovery before it even jumped to the future, man. But so it didn't work the first time. And then the second time, the way we solved the problem, and you know, we haven't even brought in the whole 7 of 9 aspect of advocating for the doctor and how we basically get Janeway to try to approach it a different way. But the way we solve the problem is through counseling, right? And you know, it's a different kind of counseling. It's this, you know, couple-week vigil in the holodeck of all of his friends being there, being supportive of him while he works through it. And eventually we're just led to believe that he does work through it, eventually, you know, or at least learns to cope. And we give those personality subroutines time to grow and whatnot. So that was, I guess you would say, the right way to solve it. But was it the right way? I mean, was he capable of that 18 months prior? I don't know. I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, he wasn't given the option to even try that 18 months prior, right? It was just, oh, this is too much of a problem. We're going to erase it. And I mean, we all have those memories that we would love to just have erased from our mind, but then that would affect who we are as people today.
Yeah. So. And I keep going back to this point of erasing Ensign Jital from the ship. What must have the crew members thought of Janeway for taking that action? You know, obviously the senior staff were complicit. Even, you know, B'Elanna was the one who did the work on the doctor. But, you know, you're an ensign or a Maquis crewman down there on a lower deck, and you think, oh my God, Janeway's just deleted someone because it's an unpleasant conversation. What does that? How would that affect Janeway's the respect shown to her as captain? So it's all conveniently not part of the story that everyone was just fine with it. But Yeah, this is one of those episodes that really highlights that Janeway is she can go quite berserk at the drop of a hat. You know, she went full Tuvix on him.
Well, I'm going to defend Janeway here because she's being pragmatic. They don't have a doctor, and we need the doctor. And I think the entire crew knows that we need the doctor. We don't have a doctor. We need to get the doctor through this. It's pre 7 of 9 joining the crew, so she's not there to advocate for the doctor the way she did. And the doctor would have been end of season 3 is when this happens, actually. And we'll talk more about that later, guys, in trivia and continuity. But it's the end of season 3. And maybe the doctor still is looked at overall as, a piece of technology less than a person. We don't really jump into the whole holographic rights thing until like season 6 and 7, where we really get focused in on that, right? And I guess this being an early season 5 episode is probably one of the bigger early discussions of his being a sentient being and whatnot. So
see, I don't buy that. I view this as being quite late into Voyager's run. Even the current timeline, not the 18-month flashback. There are so many times where Janeway has defended the Doctor's autonomy, his rights. I only really count the crew treating the Doctor like a tricorder for like the first few episodes until its Eye of the Needle was the episode where it was first confronted. So for season 5 Janeway to be the Doctor is more like a replicator than he is a person is like, oh my God, what is she saying? That is, I would have forgiven season 1 Janeway for saying that, but not season 5.
You have any thoughts on this, Kristin? You don't have to.
No, I think my problem is I have all the thoughts because I'm seeing both sides of the argument here where, like, holy cow, what would I have done if I were in this situation? I can't see me at, like, if I were Janeway stepping in and being like, let's just erase the problem. I get that the crew needs its medical officer, and is this going to cause irreparable damage? I don't know, but because again, the point has been made. It's not just about his memories. It is about Jatal, and the way that we respect the dead is by keeping their memories alive.
Yeah.
And so it was a complete disrespect to everything this young woman did, the sacrifice she made, the potential that she had, everything. It was just kind of not great. But again, I can see her point. That's my problem. I can't make these types of decisions, which is why I'm not a captain or a doctor or anything. I do paperwork for a living. So I'm
But so I guess, maybe to sum this up a little bit, is that what makes it a good episode? Is that we can see both sides of it, and we can, the three of us, not agree on what we would have done or how we would have done it. But like, wow, you wrote a good episode here. Now, maybe I will concede to Kelvin's point a little bit here that they may have written Janeway too harsh to create that dichotomy of creating the conflict, right? Like, did we write Janeway a little out of character in order to make this episode work? And that could be a thing. Yeah.
I think that's quite acknowledged. I think a lot of people say that it is very out. There's that kind of empathy moment of the Doctor has a soul. It just comes from nowhere. It's like, oh, is it a regret? Is it for I've given this some further thought? And if you use that simile of what we said about clues earlier, when you said, Kristin, that they were in a rush, they're all going to die. There's no suggestion of any peril here. They could have just turned the Doctor off and had a really long meeting of what are the options here without going for that one immediately.
But my concern there is they're still turning him off and having a discussion about what to do with him without him being present.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's my whole thing, right? Because this does harken very much back to, again, I've already talked about lobotomies, but with women and unhoused people back in the day when they had mental breakdowns and whatnot, they weren't seen as people. And so they were never asked about how they want to proceed with their care. The decisions were made for them by those in charge. And we all saw how that went. And this was, a potential slippery slope for that.
Exactly. It reminds me, and the doctor's behavior kind of lends to it, right? He's so irrational. He's raising his voice. He's yelling. He's becoming physical. It's almost to that point where you would have a patient in a home, like, in some sort of like, now you if it were a human, you'd put them in a straitjacket so they wouldn't harm themselves. In the doctor's case, they can just turn him off and then start making decisions without his consent. But he's also demonstrated, I think, to a certain extent, that he can't be rational. He's just literally spiraling in this feedback loop, which, it becomes more of an engineer approach, which is, Janeway and B'Elanna have this more of an engineer's approach to how to fix them instead of, it's looked at as a technological problem instead of a personal problem, and that's where not having a ship's counselor really becomes an issue for Voyager.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where was Neelix in all of this? He should have been helping. He was afraid of him, actually. He was afraid of him. Any other thoughts on the actual debate of the episode before we jump into assimilations and regenerations?
I think the one thing that ticks me off is when Tom Paris is like, let me do the procedure on Jital. And he's like, no, it's too, too difficult. And then he takes the thing and he goes, boop, boop, boop. And I was like, what? Tom could have done that. That didn't look hard at all. Or at least try.
Or Kelvin's point of put him in a transport buffer, or do what they did. What did they do to Crusher in the Genesis, stasis, where they put her in stasis? Stasis.
Again, that wouldn't have made for the story. I get it, but I'm just sitting there going, oh my gosh, there were a million other things you could have done here. And it just seemed like no one was actually thinking on their feet in this situation. And poor Jital got the short end of the stick. And for me, I would have picked Jital just because she's from an evolutionary perspective, she could add to the sustainability of the crew more than Harry could have.
I didn't even low-key want to talk about that. I didn't think to talk about that, but I would have saved Jital first too, because I don't like Harry Kim.
She was, I don't know, she just seemed to have this air about her. She was this gorgeous young woman, so much potential, so much to give, and she just brought this air of just love and whatnot with her. I really got her groove. I liked her groove that we got, and I would have gone straight there. And plus, didn't she die on her birthday then?
Ish. Yeah, I got
a few days later.
Yeah, I got Lieutenant J vibes from her.
Yeah. And I think it's really interesting that we are focusing on Ensign Jital and how tragic it is for her when the story is actually Janeway and the Doctor. It's like, isn't it a shame for the Doctor? Well, no, it's actually a really big shame for Ensign Jital.
Also, Kim, would Ensign Kim, Mr. Harry, would he have survivor's guilt?
Oh, well, he's had it before.
Touche.
Well, I think the fact that we're thinking of Jital shows just how empathetic we are as an audience, and no one even thinks to go there in the actual writing of the script. And that's, I think, a very different way as in the 25 plus years or whatever it's probably been since this episode was made. I think how we're wired differently as humans, and we're advocating for things like that now versus it was probably just fine back when this episode aired.
Yeah.
All right, let's go into assimilations and regenerations. So, Kelvin, why don't you kick us off?
Quite uncommon for me to acknowledge this as an assimilation because I don't like anything horror or scary or bloody. But I thought there were some very brave choices with the amount of blood in this episode. When the alien beams onto the shuttle and shoots them, you literally see blood squirt into the air from Ensign Jital. And it's quite graphic for Star Trek. Think of like the Way of the Warrior when they're all having the batleth battles in ops and like not one person gets cut. Just like pick them out the way and block.
That's true. All the batleths. Yeah,
that was Star Trek of its day. So we didn't see a huge amount of blood, but this episode really went in for it. And I think it was just to emphasize how powerful that weapon was that the alien used. So yeah, I'm going to assimilate the gore.
Yeah, I didn't look to see who the director was, but that's usually a director's type choice when they're producing an episode. So maybe the director had a little bit of a horror background. Kristin, why don't you hit the next one?
Bob Picardo killed this episode. He was so good and so convincing with his strife that he hit when he realized what had happened. I just thought the acting in this episode was just chef's kiss. It was so good.
And especially from him, but for many of the cast, they all have some good. It's a good, B'Elanna has some points, Seven has some points, Paris has some points. There's some good acting in this episode.
It was that good topic of grief and regrets and just being in the situation where there is no easy answer and no right way to go, that I think caused everybody to really be able to tap into those times in their life where we've all dealt with these types of situations, and you could just see that in the quality of the acting. So yeah,
I enjoyed capturing Janeway with the camera because it's very today, but for 1999, Kelvin, I think you must have put this in here. It's a doorbell cam footage, but I love how they basically use that cam sitting, the ugly looking camera, by the way, he set up a trap to find out who was sabotaging him. And it's revealed that it was Janeway. And I think we all would have known that, it's very suspect. It was pretty cool that the way he's like, I'm going to back up my memories. I'm going to turn myself off and I'm going to put the camera on. And basically sets a trap to protect himself and still find out the perpetrator. So that was well done. Just maybe needed a better camera.
I'm going to assimilate the Janeway and Seven scene. And you've already mentioned, Kristin, about the quality of the acting, but Jeri Ryan's delivery of her lines of, it is troubling, part of me is still Borg, not unlike the Doctor, not unlike your replicator, will you one day choose to abandon me? It's brilliant. And I can't get away from the whole off-camera Kate Mulgrew, Jeri Ryan arguing all the time. So whenever there are these really good scenes, I think they're extra amazing because they're going, hammer and nail at each other when the camera stops rolling. So it's brilliant. I just think Jeri Ryan's evolution of the character, having only played Seven for a year at this point, she was, true 7 of 9 in this episode of her.
Kelvin, it's so funny you say that because I'm literally watching this episode yesterday on the couch in the living room, and Justin just walks by and he just takes it in for a couple seconds. He's like, man, they work so well on screen. It's too bad they didn't work well off screen. Hey, and that was his one comment about the whole episode. I was like, you know what? You're right.
Yeah. Well, and maybe that is part of the chemistry too. Sometimes, frenemies or enemies do the best work.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. The last assimilation, and I'll call this out because we think we talked about it a little bit with the blood, is the director's camera angles and shots were quite artsy, and I think if you tie that back to the choice of the blood and whatnot, I think we just had a really well directed episode, and it really elevates everything between the director and the performances. It really makes it a very interesting episode.
Yeah, I think it's only fair that we give a shout out to the director of this episode. So I'm just quickly looking. Mike Vijar, not one of the more known names to me, unfortunately, but I think he did a bloody good job on this episode with the whole focus on the front, focus on the back, changing the focus of the face of the Doctor when it was a flashback scene. I just thought it was really different and really good.
Yes, I think good job to our director, definitely. Kristin, you want to kick us into some regenerations?
Some regenerations. The Holo Imager, it really was just the ugliest. I mean, it was 1999. We were using better digital cameras by then. Why are we making things so large and cumbersome for the future? It looked like it. I mean, I have my grandparents' old Polaroid camera from the 1970s, and even that's more streamlined looking than this thing.
It looks like a child's toy.
Really does. And apparently, it was fashioned from a radio control transmitter.
Ooh.
I believe that.
Why? Why did someone think this is definitely what they would be using this many hundreds of years in the future? It was ridiculous. And I mean, he's taking that stuff on away missions.
Mm-hmm.
That's got to weigh like 5 pounds. I'm not lugging that around on an away mission. It seemed it was unnecessarily humorous.
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where the props people aren't being as forward thinking to say, like, well, this is what we have in 1990. Imagine what we're going to have in 50 years, let alone 250 years, you know? Mm-hmm. And you're not being really forward visionaries about that. And, you know, really we now know that our communicators are recording everything and could have, done that.
You know what it actually kind of reminds me of with the humor and the gigantism of this is the fistful of datas. Alexander Rozhenko's toy that he's playing with, the little, I don't know, Game Boy, that was bigger than his entire torso. And he's sitting there holding it like, and I was like, why is this what he's using? Game Boys were out then and we're already more like streamlined. Anyway, I won't say anymore, but it was ridiculous.
Kelvin, why don't you jump us to our next regeneration?
I'm going to skip over one and let you take the next one, Christos, but I'm going to regenerate. And this is not specific to this episode, because I always flinch when I see this example. You see it a lot in Deadlock in season 2. The Doctor is the only medical officer on Voyager, yes, which is why we have to get Tom Paris roped in every 5 minutes. So who are all of these medical officers who turn up with the stretchers, you know, helping them onto the bio beds? Why aren't they trained instead of Tom Paris once Kes leaves? So the random extras in medical uniforms are a huge regeneration for me. There shouldn't be any.
It's a continuity issue. Huge continuity.
Absolutely.
Very much so, but well stated. It bugs me too when I was watching. I'm like, where all these guys come from? And it was really fast too, you know? Yep. So I'm going to just say, I kind of alluded to this a little bit earlier. My thing is like, there's no clear end. I would have liked a little bit more of a firm ending, but it's a little bit of a stretch, but I thought it was a little bit of a weird ending.
Mm-hmm. We all love a firm ending. But yeah, it goes on for far too long, that scene, doesn't it? It's boring.
Yeah. She's got a fever, but she won't leave her friend's side. And Kristin, why don't you give us this last regeneration? Because I think we all have things to say about that.
So regeneration, torpedo the dead. Should they have taken her home to a family? See, I don't know. I this reminds me very much of burials at sea back on the old ships. And it's just, you had to do it. You had to off it. But in this case, why didn't they cremate her and at least keep her ashes?
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's Star Trek's Burial at Sea, and we've seen it done before. But I think there's something quite particular about Voyager's circumstances that bringing the dead back in the morgue, because they've got one. It's a really big one. You see it in Renaissance Man, the penultimate episode. It's that thing of I'm bringing you back to your family, even if you are dead. So it seems like a choice that Janeway would have made, unlike, dying in the Alpha Quadrant, get torpedoed off
Yeah.
on the Genesis planet.
So my 2 points on that would be I think cremation / bring her home for her family, yes, and also Voyager allegedly has its limited number of photon torpedoes. So are we wasting photon torpedoes? It's a very pragmatic way of looking at it. Like, hey, we can't spare that, man.
Yeah.
That baby's got a Borg name on it. We're going to go to trivia and continuity, and I'm going to jump the line and go into what I feel like is the biggest mess up, and for many, many, many reasons, and go give you the one I was alluding to earlier. So this episode is set 18 months after Stardate 50979, which places Jital's death chronologically between worst case scenario and Scorpion. However, all of the Doctor's memories show Janeway with the new short haircut, despite the fact that she doesn't get this hairstyle until Year of Hell, 9 episodes after worst case scenario. And Paris's haircut is also not keeping with the suggested time frame. And Kes doesn't appear in any of the memories, even though she was still on the ship and serving as the Doctor's assistant at this time. She was replaced by Paris to assist. So the Doctor during the treatment of Kim, to assist the Doctor during the treatment. So there's quite a few things that they just didn't look back at with the time frame, and that things were different on Voyager when they jumped that far back.
And Paris's medical officer. And Tuvok's promotion. Tuvok should have been a lieutenant at this point. He wasn't. He was still commander. I raced and dropped all of these notes in as a regeneration, Christos, and then carried on reading and noticed you put it in the trivia, so removed it. So I'm really glad, because you know how much these things piss me off. I am that really annoying, pernickety person. So, you've got the wrong com badge for the wrong uniform. That's me. Yeah. So it just, there was just a lack of due diligence here, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, you could have gotten around the casting by making a one-line mention somehow to explain why she wasn't there. But yeah, and add this to all those blue shirts that are helping with the stretchers and stuff. There's just a lot of things that are outside the norm of Voyager that just don't add up here.
Mm-hmm.
They could have got someone dressed as Kes. Stick the bad wig on them. Yeah, from behind.
I'm sure they still had those wigs sitting in costumes somewhere. Just plop that on an extra there.
I mean, you had Jerry Ryan. Just let her do it.
Oh, controversial. Then to replace Kes, and then she became her.
Dun dun dun.
All right, let's go through some more trivia and continuity here.
So Janeway repeats Admiral Kirk's line at Spock's funeral from Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan for Ensign Jital's funeral. We come here today to pay final respects to our honored dead. And I love that, because I cry at the end of Wrath of Khan, no matter how many times I've seen it. When Scotty starts playing those bagpipes, the tears start falling. So I loved the callback to that in this episode.
Kristin, I think you missed your mark that you could be cosplaying Saavik in that scene with her hair down and everything. You kind of got the look. You could totally do that.
Thank you. Am I more of a Robin Curtis Saavik or Kirstie Alley?
Kirstie Alley. You got the longer hair and longer straight hair, and and plus you get to be half Romulan in her version of things, and you can be a little bit more emotional.
Yeah. Aw.
I don't have the source for this, so if people come for us, I'll take the blame. But apparently this is Bob Picardo's favorite episode, which probably goes a long way to explain why he killed it so much, no pun intended. He was so good and he loves it.
Well, I think probably I'm just speculating, but he gets to stretch his legs as an actor in this episode quite a bit and do things that are very out of character for his character.
And I think Brent Spiner actually talks about certain episodes where he's allowed to cut loose his data as well. And I think this is a similar thing, right? Where their base character is very straight and very, not a lot of emotion. So when they get those opportunities to just go off and really, like you said, stretch their acting legs, tend to be the ones that they really like. So, yeah. Yes.
When they get to do something different, it's always their favorites. So the alien on the shuttle was played by Tarek Aragon, Lieutenant Alaya. I'm butchering this. Voyager's most famous Maquis extra. Marquis.
He's a tent at a wedding. I just think when this, so you said earlier that about Lieutenant J. So Lieutenant Ayala is the J of Voyager in that it's the permanent extra always there. So I always find it quite surprising when they take that actor and just stick it in a bit of cosplay makeup and you're the alien of the week. So I wanted to give credit to that actor there.
Just give them a funky forehead or a weird nose and you're set. Okay, this one I love as somebody who's read Dante's Inferno is the quotation that the Doctor reads at the end of this episode is a translation from Dante's La Vita Nuova, but is actually a reworking of it. Possibly because the Voyager version is somewhat more touching as a standalone quote. Various websites have erroneously attributed the Doctor's version to Dante himself.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's amazing or horrific that someone's writing about Dante's Inferno and they quote Voyager instead of the actual text.
Well, you know, and I think that comes back to the internet really doing away with people's research skills kind of waning where you're not checking your sources. So, yeah, but I know this is weird to say, but if you ever have the opportunity to read Dante's Inferno, I do very much recommend it. It's a hard read because of just the translation is even Old English compared to what we're used to reading a lot, but it is such a powerful story about that journey through the circles of hell and Dante really exploring this side of himself. It's really good.
Yes. I had to read that in like 10th or 11th grade. But all right. So shall we jump on to quickly grab our final thoughts of the episode? And we'll go to Kelvin.
I have great feelings about this episode, and I was very excited when it came up on our to-do list for all good things here. What I didn't mention earlier is when this episode aired in 1999, I was 18 years old. I was going on my first foreign holiday with friends. So my first trip abroad without my parents, without the family. And I missed this episode going out live because I was away on holiday in Gran Canaria. And I just remember racing home and it being recorded off TV on VHS. And I just went up to my bedroom. And before I wouldn't say unpack because, you know, I lived at home. I just threw my case at my poor mother and she dealt with it. But it was the first thing I raced to do was to watch this episode. So even now when I do a rewatch, it always takes me back to being 18 years old, coming back off my first foreign trip where I got up to all sorts of things for the first time. That's another story. But I do think this is a fabulous fit for our medical ethics series because it's caused quite a bit of division even amongst us, that a lot of, you know, the three of us can't align on the right and wrong of the actions or inactions of the characters in this episode. So great episode, great acting, great memories for me, not so great memories for the Doctor.
And Kristin, sorry to just hit what you meant there.
Kelvin, you are killing it with the humor this morning. That was a brilliant line. Great memories for me. The Doctor, ooh, I don't know.
Maybe not so much.
So
Kristin,
final thoughts on this episode. Honestly, this is the first time I've really thought in depth about this episode simply because when I was younger, 1999, I was 15 when this episode came out. And at that point, I never liked watching women die in TV or movies. If a woman died, I don't know what it was. I couldn't do it. I couldn't watch Predator until someone told me she doesn't die. Okay, now I can watch Predator. So I always kind of glossed over this. I was like, I have to watch it. It's part of the series. I'll just run through it in the episode. But when I really looked at it, it's a very good episode, but it's so sad. It's a very, very sad a sad part of Voyager's history. And I guess, history and life itself is also not always joyful. So you have to take the good and the bad. And where am I going with this? It's a good episode. It's polarizing, it's depressing, but it also has a lot of very important points being made throughout it. And I appreciate that.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Christos?
I agree. I like this episode more so because at the end of the day, it makes you think. And I love when writing is so good that you have to stop and think about things and think about what would you do, think about what the characters have done. It's very thought-provoking and that's what I think Star Trek does best, right? It gets us to think and look at things. And it's not just pew, 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 shoot them up, but, it can be something to help us, reflect and learn something about ourselves. Yeah. All right. So our medical ethics series has gotten to be quite long, although we called this episode 9, although I can't find the 9th episode. So previous episodes covered in this series are today's Latent Image, Enterprise's Dear Doctor, TNG's Symbiosis, Voyager's Critical Care, Voyager's Nothing Human, DS9's Life Support, Strange New World, Lift Us Where Suffering Cannot Reach, and Voyager's Lineage. So that's 8. I don't know where the 9th is, but okay.
Is it TNG's Ethics?
Maybe.
And I don't know that we've done that one. I was thinking about that, but I just don't find a history of it. There are 160 some episodes of All Good Things, and not all of us were on the podcast when it was done.
Yeah. Dare I say, our progenitors, Amy and Mark, it's one of the earlier episodes where the series didn't really have these defined series that they do now. So yeah, I was counting back through the timeline and got to 9.
Because ethics, I think, is probably, it's literally right there in the name of the episode. But I remember watching that as a kid and just having my mind blown at these discussions, not just with Beverly and that rogue doctor, but also between Riker and Worf. So that was.
So I guess that's your who did it best.
Oh, actually, no. My who did it best was Critical Care. I thought that one was such a burn on the medical system, particularly, no offense, the US medical system, where it's, if you have more money, you're taken better care of. The private pay medical system. So that, I just thought Critical Care was done so well. And again, Bob Picardo killed that role, and just his pure fight for those who need the care and how he was stealing medicine and all of that. I thought it was just a great episode. So that's my favorite of it, because his actions look as though they're unethical, but really they're more ethical than how that hospital was running.
And Mr. Kelvin, what is your preferred episode?
Yeah, this is difficult. These are all really good inclusions into the series. And also, this is just really good theme of Star Trek, that it gives us these ethical dilemmas to process. But I'm going with Enterprise. I'm going with Dear Doctor. The kind of the two species evolving on the same planet, which one should be given the kind of the natural selection almost, and the choice, the Archer ordering flocks to sort out the genetic problem of the more developed species, even though they were going to die out and the Menk were going to be the dominant. I just think that's brilliant. And again, that's fabulous acting from John Billingsley as well. So everyone's favorite gay icon. I am going for Enterprise.
Okay. Very good. And you're right. Getting up to 8 or 9 episodes, it becomes a bit of a choice, right? I'm actually going to maybe surprise you guys and go with TNG's Symbiosis, because
you do not surprise me at all.
Well, because it's, I think, the oldest episode on this list, and to say in 1987 they were writing episodes like that and really getting into this, exploitation theme and addiction theme and the prime directive theme. And you really do end up in this, like, what should they have done? And they've broken the rules in 20 other episodes, so why wouldn't we have done it here? So yes, I really enjoy the debate that openly has, and especially between some of the debate you have between Picard and Crusher in this episode. Yes.
Yeah, she was definitely heated, but I loved Symbiosis because he found a technical loophole, right? Well, if we're not going to enforce the prime directive in this way, then we can't give you this piece of equipment to fix your ship. So sorry, not sorry. And I just, again, talking about, what actually happened after the episode, not feeling like the episode was fully wrapped up. I would love if they had revisited this at some point and seen how the addicted community got through that.
They did.
Oh, they did. I think you need to go watch some Lower Decks.
Okay. I think I do need to finish up my Lower Decks.
You have but you have a treat waiting for you now.
I do. Ooh. Nom, nom, nom.
What shows are on BQN, you ask? Well, here's a rundown of some podcasts you might be interested in. All Good Things, a Star Trek Universe podcast covering all of Trek, hosted by Amy, Mark, Christos, Kelvin, and Kristin. Whether you've got Xbox or Nintendo, check out Bargain Bin Gamer, a YouTube show hosted by Davey, a self-proclaimed gamer who specializes in reviewing and showcasing affordable video games. 2 episodes enter the arena, 1 comes out victorious. Join hosts Joe and Kevin, and a guest, as they debate which should win the Batleth battle. Grab your popcorn as you listen to Cinema Z, a film discussion and review podcast showcasing films you probably missed, but should definitely check out. Hosted by Mark and Matt. Don your apron for The Food Replicator, where Matthew eats and drinks his way through the Star Trek cocktail and 3 cookbooks. Beam Aboard Galaxy Class, a Star Trek Next Generation podcast covering all of TNG, hosted by Steven. In order to not repeat it, listen to History with the Szilagys, a snippet of historical events from around the world, hosted by Chrissy and Jason. For the newest Trek coverage, check out Infinite Diversity, hosted by Chrissy and Thad. Curl up with a good book and delve into beta canon with Peter, host of the online Trek Book Club on Twitter, and his new companion, Trek Book Club podcast. Test your Trek knowledge with Trexperts Quiz, a Star Trek quiz show hosted and written by Davey. Whether you're a member of Starfleet Federation or Planetary Union, go check out Union Federation, covering current Star Trek and the Orville, which we all know is really a Trek show, hosted by Kyle, Kevin, Amy, and Haley. Head over to YouTube and watch The View Screen live on Sundays, your Trek-inspired talk show hosted by Kelvin and Amy, with Season 2 starting in September for a 10-week run. Spill the tea with Christos while he discusses current Trek news and events and explores the world of fandom via guest interviews, all with a LGBTQIA+ perspective on What's the Tea Bab. And for our Patreon members, we have The Hive Mind with monthly script readings, Let's Fly, a Discovery reaction show, It's Green, a cornucopia of topics, Amy's Math Moments, a quick look at math moments in Star Trek. We know you have a choice of podcasts to choose from, and we thank you for listening to BQN. Assimilate the audio.
Lovely Amy Nelson joining us via recording on that episode. I love that we have so many shows here on the BQN, but I just don't know how many people are hitting plus 30 on their podcast watcher to get to next week's episode. Kelvin, why don't you tee us up?
So we are staying with Voyager, And we're staying with season 5 as well. Next week, we are continuing our genetic engineering series, and we're looking at The Fight, Voyager season 5, episode 19. Now, I'm not here next week, and it might be a good thing. This is my least favorite episode of Voyager. Filler episode. I'm not into the Maquis Mauler. I despise boxing as a sport. I think I'm very much with the Doctor, the way he is in this episode. So I would probably cause a fight if I was present next week. So I'm bowing out, going celebrating James's birthday at Rome Pride. Enjoy yourself.
Very good. Well, I don't know if that was a reason to watch next week or a reason to watch this episode or not watch this episode. So I plan on being on our next episode. So I will be watching that, and guess we're spending some more time here in season 5 of Voyager. We would love to hear what you thought of today's episode and hope you'll join our Facebook group, the BQN Collective, or on our Discord server to continue our discussion there. You can also reach us at All Good Pod on X and Bluesky. Please follow the network on Twitter, Bluesky, and Instagram at BQN Podcast. We've also partnered with our friends at the Fandom Podcast Network, where you can find us by searching their master feed. Links can be found in the show notes. So, Kelvin, where can people find you when you're not looking for all of your missing memories?
Oh dear, this is a sign of getting older. When I'm not doing that, you can find me in the BQN Collective Facebook group or on our Discord server, or you can come for me directly at Kelvin's Timeline on all the other socials. And Kristin, where can people find you when you're not posing for photographs being scanned and depicted from the inside out of the holo imager?
What else is there to do other than have my photo taken and et cetera, what you just said, Kelvin? I am, of course, on all the Facebook groups for BQN. I keep meaning to join Discord, but then the week goes by so fast and I still haven't done it. And anyway, so I'm not there, but I am on Instagram at KStrats, where you'll see lots of pictures of bikinis. And I am on Reddit, user Garrick's Fan Club, where I love to comment on anything Garrick related, because then the first comment comes in, username checks out, and I'm like, yes, it does. So, and Christos, where can people find you when you're not launching your deceased friends into space in a much needed torpedo casing?
I
guess
just
Kelvin
my
just
keyboard across the room, then I laughed that much.
Kelvin just got launched. Oh boy, you can find me on the BQN Collective on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram at GreekGeekSD, or at What's the T-Bev. You can also find me on Discord, and you can also find me on What's the T-Bev, where I guess I can say we're going to be bringing live episodes very, very, very soon to you. So there's a little breaking news. So stay tuned. If you would like to help us keep all of our shows coming to you each week, you can become a patron of the network on Patreon. For just $1 a month, you can join our Let's Fly reaction show, script readings, and enjoy our special patron-only show of It's Green, Amy's Math Moments, and others. Let's Fly will be back soon, I think. Visit patreon.com/BQN to get all the details and watch your messages. I wonder how Mr. Davey is going to handle Let's Fly with 20 episodes of Prodigy dropping all at once. That's going to be interesting.
I'll ask him next week when I see him.
Yeah, pose that question to him.
If becoming a patron isn't your thing, you can still support the show by sharing our posts on social media, talking about it with your friends, or hitting the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts, and leaving us a star rating and written review. That helps others to find the show.
At this time, we would like to thank our very own associate producers, Mahendran Radhakrishnan and JJ Seastrum. Special thanks to Graham Kelly for our opening and closing music, and our very own Mark White for our artwork each and every week.
Thank you for listening.
We hope you'll join us.
as we search out all good things.